This conference will now be recorded.
We have a couple amendments to the city agenda on 8F. Originally, it was sent out that we were going to address the concerned citizen letter, but we're going to pull that out and put that in public comments. So we're going to add on 8F tablets for public works, which you think you had a memo in front of you. So I need approval of that. And then also on 8I, we're going to add a set date for rescheduled work session. So that's the two amendments to the agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0-0. Do we need to adopt the agenda then after we amend it?
That was it.
That was it? Okay, there's the amendment. Okay. Review the minutes from November 17th, regular meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve the November 17th meeting minutes as written.
I'll second.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0-0. Accounts payable, Dirk.
Paid out the election judges. I see on line 78076, it says 2 Moon. The next one is 3 Roan and 4.
That was our new, we used to our new system, the
Okay.
way the report came in. So it really was made out to those people without the numbers. That's their vendor number part of it. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Big ticket items are the construction for concrete work building, $12,000. And it looks like we bought probably 50 tons of salt, something like that. And so that was salt for the roads, $17,000, $421.56. $9,000 to fix the pump that we had talked about. And total was $56,582.83.
Any questions for Dirk or Kim?
Make the motion to approve it or no?
Oh, I'll make the motion, we approve it. I'm still new, so
That's okay. I was not really paying attention to it.
that's okay.
I know.
It's all good.
And Sarah, second. Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0-0. Public comment. I will open the public comments portion. Individuals may address the city council about any item of concern. Speaker must state their name and limit their remarks to 5 minutes. Rich?
Yes, Richard Fowler, and I just want to make a public comment. I got my property tax statement, and it went up almost 10.7%. But I want to thank the city for the fact that the city's portion was only 2.7%, which I think is extremely impressive. So I'd really like to thank city staff as well as the council and the mayor and the city administrator for all their hard work of keeping the budget in line, and pretty impressive, I think. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kim.
Kim, yes.
Thanks for coming, Rich.
Yeah, appreciate that.
And then I have one more letter that I believe all council got except for Tina. I'm going to just kind of read the front page. What was that? I'm going to just read the front page and then we'll kind of decide where we want to go at. Mr. Grudem with the G. I would like to bring to your attention the declining state of our town and what happens when the city ordinances are not being upheld. It is disappointing to care about our homes and take pride in our homes' appearances only to have ever increasing number of neighbors and city residents who do not care to maintain their own homes. Most of us manage our homes' upkeep and take pride in its appearance only to have neighbors who does not. Our property values of the surrounding homes suffer because of trashy neighbors. And what about outside visitors and those passing through? Is this acceptable? More and more people are staking junk on the outside of their homes, next to their garages, or just in plain sight. This is against city ordinances, and even worse is the ever increasing number of vehicles and recreation vehicles being parked on front lawns, which is also against established city ordinance and is getting out of hand. One person does it, and so it begins. I took a short drive around only a small portion of the town this past weekend, and you don't have to look very far or hard to see any number of violations. Is there a reason why our rules and regulations are not being maintained? A person should not have to call the police to report a violation of these sorts. People should receive a warning and then followed by a citation, etc. Let's do a better job of maintaining our city and make it a place we want to live or visit. Concerned citizen. That was a letter I believe all council got. They also attached some of the ordinances in here, highlighted them, and then also sent several pictures of violations and their addresses, which I don't think is really necessary for public right now. So,
I can drive around and see them.
yeah. So I guess, does the council have any directions or input on this issue that have read the letter? I think you read the letter too already, so. Does Chief want to speak first?
Sure. In regards to this, I mean,
Come on up to the mic there.
Right in that front row.
But more or less how we have been enforcing it and.
Yep. So some of the concerns here, sure, there's ordinance in regards to parking motor vehicles on improved surfaces, which would be a driveway, concrete, asphalt, dirt. And in the wintertime, we kind of go with the spirit of the law rather than the letter of the law, because we're trying to keep our streets clear so the streets can be plowed. And this has come in, since the snow ordinance was in effect. And it looks like to me, a lot of these people are certainly just trying to make sure that their vehicle's off the street. Most of these vehicles that I've seen in here actually don't stay there parked for months on end. They get moved around. And the other thing is I typically don't go and look for violations, nuisance violations. I let that violation come to us because it actually affects somebody other than the police. And so that's one of the reasons why we don't go around and just look for the nuisances. Now, certainly there are things that come to our attention that are extremely egregious. I didn't see that in these photos. These are cars that are parked in someone's front yard and probably so they didn't leave it out on the street. But that's kind of how we enforce it. And yeah, we do get calls from actual complaints and we respond to them appropriately, and that's where we take it.
Well, I think a couple of them on there are repeat offenders year round.
Sure.
I mean, and that's what I've noticed on a few of those. And like I said, I'm not going to be a mayor to go around micromanage and tell chief to go take care of this and I mean, I like the on-call complaints, dealing with it versus being that one out there, chief, go deal with this, go deal with that, so.
Right. And one of the commonalities here is you see most of these homes have like a single lane driveway. They got a single car garage and they got more cars than they've got parking. So, the city doesn't have necessarily 100% off-street parking available to every residence here. I mean, we've got an apartment complex here that doesn't have 100% off-street parking, and they've got to find other ways to do that. So we don't go around and worry about people parking in their yards in the wintertime because they're doing their part not to get cited for parking on the street. And I kind of have to weigh both of those out.
That was going to be my comment too, that it's winter time and people have to get off the street and maybe in the spring, if we're seeing some, people shouldn't be parking in their front yard.
Right.
But to me, that's, maybe they just need a letter saying this is the ordinance and can't park there.
And certainly, I mean, we can do that. I've been in them situations on ordinances where I was the complainant because it was a clear violation and they dismissed it because I didn't live near them. No one that was around them were the ones that made the complaint. And so it's kind of a catch-22 sometimes in certain circumstances. And so that's one of the reasons why I go off an affected person. So if anyone were to actually call and say, hey, someone needs to deal with this, or if they call the city and it comes through the city that someone complained about a, car with flat tire parked on the street, whatever it may be, I take that as a legitimate complaint. So.
But I also think we need to look at it, see if it's registered and licensed and
Correct.
insured versus I know there's a few vehicles that aren't that way that are sitting in the yards. So do we address it differently that way too?
So that would be my suggestion. Since you're meeting the person that submitted the letter and the photos, I mean, it's an issue we've discussed before. We all know it's a nuisance, but is it something that it's a smaller committee with the chief and an officer, whoever, something that you want to tackle and how we move forward with that versus trying to hash it out here or on the agenda. I think it, to the chief's point, it can get a little slippery slope. And how do you want to address that? Because I know that I previously would have been in this camp, but also I know how it is to look across your property and see a vehicle that's parked on the yard. So I think it warrants the discussion and conversation, and maybe that there's an opportunity for a smaller group to sit down and figure out how you go forward. And you're just going to go around town and sending out letters to everybody, or do you start with some communication in the channels that we have, just as a reminder before we go that route? So that would be my suggestion as we move into the winter months, because I do know that those vehicles have been there a lot longer before the snow, because one was in my backyard for years or down the street. Oh, I don't know, maybe it's just West Avenue that's got it. So anyhow, that would be my, maybe that's how we take this, because I would not want to dismiss this because it came in without a name versus it came in on a phone call, but still the caller didn't give you their name. So, but I understand the concern of how do we enforce that when it takes more legal action.
Well, that and just the mere fact that it is wintertime, and a lot of these cars, from what I see, they are ones that they're moving in and out daily. And
Right, for the boats in the driveway.
if they don't have a place to park outside of their yard because they have too many cars, and sometimes, they have more than what they're supposed to. But how do you dictate someone being able to own more than the required cars too? I mean, we can write ordinance, but people have.
I don't know, I just said it's a car and a half per person that lives in the house. That's why I always had to keep it down. I don't know that was true. It could have been his own philosophy, so we weren't parking cars at his house.
Is 4 the number? That's in the ordinance, I believe.
I just think it warrants more conversation on how you proceed.
And again, like Pat said, that's the difficult thing, because a lot of these move all the time. Do we give them a violation each day that they park in their lawn? Say, okay, today you're a violation, and then they go to work and they come home and they park there again and give them a violation. And some of them are there a long time. You're right. Those he can deal with. But Pat's right. And I know some of these on here that were shown. And again, we didn't want to publish those because all those people aren't aware of this at this point. We want to have a discussion. So
Maybe that's a start. We could put this statute on
Oh, for sure.
Facebook and say,
Social media.
Parking in your front yard probably isn't the greatest, maybe.
Yep, but
Park on the side of the driveway at least, so it's not.
Sure, but I do agree with Pat in that in the winter, rather have them up there than out the road.
Right, that's true.
So maybe the spring is a time to deal with it, gear up from now until spring and deal with it. Have a plan
Yeah.
going into spring. And the anonymous part of it is a little bit tough, because it's some of these things that I would like to be able to explain to someone that, okay, this is, I had received an anonymous call about someone that's on one of these pictures, or a couple of them, that are on one of these pictures, and Pat followed up on that, and it was one of those where there was a boat and the boat's moved, and then it's back there for a couple of days in the summer, and then it's moved, and then the truck is there, and then it's moved, and, so what do? Is that a violation? Would we rather have them cover the front yard in gravel, and then they're parking on a gravel surface, an improved surface? It's a tough one. They would be following the ordinance, but I'd rather have the boat there for a couple of days and not a whole gravel front yard, forever. So, but those are the type of discussions I'd like to have with someone who's gonna, and we keep it, we don't publish who complains, if they want to be if they want to be,
That is not true.
isn't it?
Not necessarily,
Oh.
because if it's public record,
Oh, okay.
so
So we would put that on a complaint that so-and-so complained and,
No.
not necessarily. But if someone files a complaint and it's part of the complaint, it's part of the file. So,
all right, well, but there are discussions that need to be had with, yeah, it's been there before.
I think, putting winter aside, the bigger concern I saw in that letter was a growing problem that people are not taking care of their houses. As an example, I have a rental right next to me. And right now, if you go up there, you can't hardly see the porch because there are 3 cars parked. One's parked on the sidewalk, one's parked in front of that, and the other one is parked, and there's 2 cars in the driveway and another car that just pulled up on the other side. So there's 6 cars in a 2-bedroom apartment house, and there's typically 5 there. They're wonderful people. I have nothing against them. We have an ordinance. We either have the ordinance or we don't have the ordinance. We either enforce it or we don't. And because what happens is over time, and I've watched this, the yard doesn't get mowed, the weeds grow. We had a big storm and part of their roof landed on my house. Their gutters. Like I said, they're wonderful people, but they don't have the same ethics that I do when it comes to taking care of my house. When I go to sell my house, neighbors, the people coming to look at my house will look and say, what's this property here? And my property value will drop because of that. And it's hard. And I think that's what I'm seeing in that letter, not just it's snowing, let's get it out of the way, because once the snow's gone, they'll put it back on the driveway. But this particular house has a much smaller driveway for how many residents are living in this. And I don't even know if we have a rental agreement or a rental ordinance like Red Wing does. Red Wing, you cannot have as many renters unless the house is physically capable of having that. So that's what I saw in that letter.
I agree.
No, absolutely. Like I said, I did receive a complaint similar on a couple of these places in the summer that we didn't follow up on and were not deemed to be violations. So the camper was not there when it went out.
and we do get them where they are violations, and we ask them to abate the nuisance, and typically they do. Most people want to avoid a $100 fine.
Right.
So, and like grass ordinances are pretty common, that we'll get complaints on those, and we give them a letter, and they got so much time to do it according to ordinance, which is probably too much time in my opinion, because by the time they actually can get to it, then it's twice as long as it was to begin with. So, I mean, there's problems with ordinance. You can always find problems with ordinances. Again, since I've started here, this is how I was told they especially handle winter parking. Don't worry about the parking in their front yard, they're off the street. And that was the most important thing, is that they weren't causing a problem with being parked out in the street, so plowing can be done.
Do you want to direct me to put together a small task force and then report back on
Maybe
how
after
we
the
think we can tighten it up?
first of the year, we'll maybe do that. Start that.
Yeah, Mayor and I will put something together.
Perfect.
Pat, and take a look. I can say that I've asked this question of other communities before, and most communities enforce nuisances just that way, complaint-based. There's some smaller communities that will drive around town and send letters. But not many, and not bigger towns. So, but yeah, we'll definitely take a look at it. And like Pat said, what the direction that we've known up till, is go on complaints, and we'll follow up on those. This is a big complaint. There's a lot of them. So not that we won't follow up, but I'm not sure, winter is a good time to follow up completely on these. But let's put together a task force, and if that's the direction, we'll get going on that after the first of the year.
Perfect.
Forward.
Thanks for everybody's input. We'll close the public comments portion. Let's start with 6A, public hearings, ordinance 2022-04. Brian.
Yep, this is our tobacco and edible cannabinoids and tobacco-related devices ordinance. It's been in here, I think this is the third time now. Just having the public hearing.
I have a comment. In the state of Minnesota, it's now 21 years of age to purchase tobacco.
Yes.
So
Do we miss one?
it says 18 in here several times.
Oh, thought I took all those out.
So I just wanted to point that out, that
Oh, yeah, you're right.
that should be changed.
Yep,
As
yep.
long as we're changing it.
There are, the definition of minor is 21 in the ordinance, and there's lots of places where it refers to minors. But there are some sections that refer to 18. Probably have to change that up.
Yep, I thought I had all those removed out of there, but we could definitely do that. Anyone here to talk about that? What? Any public here to talk about the? Did you open the meeting, the public meeting?
Yeah. I open the public comment. Any discussion on ordinance 2022-04? I will close the public hearing on that one, and I'll open the public hearing for 6B, the 2023 final budget and levy. Kimberly.
All right. The moment we've all been waiting for. 2023 budget. 2023, we had a pretty big, a fairly large increase in market value. Our levy did go up 6.5%, I believe was what we're looking at right now. But with the increase in market value, as Rich said, we were able to keep our increase on the city portion of property taxes to around 2.2%. The taxes for the house values increased about 21% overall for people. I'm assuming we're going to see some adjustment in that going forward. As you can see from the homes built, in 2021, we built 37 homes. This year, we're standing at 22. The lending market is not as robust, and so people are pulling back, and prices are still high on materials, though they are dropping. So I anticipate we're going to see lesser market value increase for the next bit. So we will have to continually monitor what we do. This was kind of a year one. We brought on a large portion of commercial market value with the DFA expansion, which softened that increase in the levy overall. Okay, let me find whoops. Sorry. There we go. Okay, James, I think I need you to help me.
Click over there on the other screen once and see if that does.
Still trying to do my slideshow. There we go. All right, so there we have our new residential housing added market. You can see in 2021, last year, we brought on about $10 million in market value. That came on the tax rolls for this year, or a large portion thereof. In 2022, so far, we have $7,457,286 that we brought on in market value, or that's been applied for permits for market value this year. That doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be on the tax rolls, because those homes are in the process of being built, and there's always a lag. between building and when the houses hit the tax rolls. Geez. There you go. New commercial market value. You can see the difference we brought in 20 and 2020 and 21. We had some building going on, and this year we just had a little bit of remodeling, no large commercial projects. Goodness gracious, I'm bad here. There you go. Well, I'm trying to do the arrow. Oh, there we go. There's our population. 2006, we were at 3,100, and right now we're at 37, almost 3,800. I just looked that up on the demographer's website the other day. And this is our levy from 2015 to 2023. We have seen a pretty significant increase in the levy over those years. A lot of that's been driven by increase. We've increased in some personnel areas, and we've also increased the size of our city. So we've had to increase costs as well. And overall, we're seeing an overall rise in costs. For example, we all know how fuel's been for the last year, so we're seeing quite a bit of increase with that. All right, this is what I figured out before we had the property, and I was pretty close when it came down to it. I have our 2022 property values. What actually probably recognize some of the addresses on there because I actually picked some of council members and staff's addresses. The 2022 property value, what the city portion of the tax was in 2022. In 2023 on these taxes, we're seeing a 21% property value increase, and the city tax that we've calculated by the increase in market value, which gives us a city tax rate of about 49.57%, which is pretty low when you look at the other area cities around us. And that's giving us an increase in the city portion of the taxes, and you can see it anywhere from $38 to $81. Now you're going to hear a lot more because people are not happy about their tax bills because they came and they're pretty significantly higher. And I'm not saying the city is not proposing a raise in their taxes, but the proportion of raise that we are requesting is relatively low. The county and the school portions are not. There was pretty significant increase in both of those. And I believe Brian was talking to Mr. Harvey, but I don't believe he got back to you with that. That's a hearing coming up. I believe on the 19th of right around in there of December for the school to explain their levy process and what their pick is. Because I know for me personally, I think the school portion of my levy went up close to $250. So it was a fairly significant rise in the school portion of levy. And I live in I don't live in a $500,000 or $600,000 house. So I can only imagine what those property owners are feeling for their tax bills. Okay, and that's not a very good picture, but I did go over because we were also talking about our water and sewer rate increases for 2023. Ellers had projected that we go with a 10% increase for sewer and a 6% increase for water. We didn't increase water the year before, so we haven't increased water very much over the last few years. We also did add an increase in the street lighting fee. We added it, we're gonna go up to $4.25, we're raising it $1, which is actually in our ordinance. And we increased the stormwater fee to $1.50 from 75 cents. I believe when we talk with Ellers, they're going to discuss a little bit more with that on our capital planning. But so I went and called a couple of the other area communities, or Miranda did, and we only got 2 responses from Wanamingo and Goodhue. And I did a projection here of 1,000 gallons, 5,000 gallons, and 10,000 gallons of what the monthly bill would be. Ours is for a 1,000 gallon, it's going to go to $41.70. For a 5,000 gallon, it'll go to $82.13. For a 10,000, it'll go to $120 a month. When you hit that 10,000 gallon, you've also reached the conservation area. So anything over 9 is going to get more. I'm done at a higher rate because we're tiered because of the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. We had to do tiered rates. In Wanamingo, they are at, let's see, $81 for 1,000 gallons, $113,000 for 5,000 gallons, and $178 for 10,000 gallons. Goodhue, they have a kind of an interesting rate structure. They're higher on the lower ends, but they have more of a static sewer fee. They don't really charge per thousand. They keep their sewer fee kind of flat. So they stack at a $42 sewer fee. They don't bill per thousand at this point. We did reach out to Mazeppa. They haven't done their rates yet. They're still in flux because they are working on their sewer, because they're trying to build a new sewer plant. So they haven't done anything with the rates yet. So they didn't have rates available for us. So the budget's in front of you. I've got a couple copies around if people want to look at them. Most of the costs were increased where we've had a bonding increase because we took on the Jefferson bond. So that's an extra $200,000 on our levy that we've had for the last 2 years. The other, just looking at my levy sheet here. General fund went up. We did add a street maintenance position for 2023 that we're in the process of interviewing for or hiring. So that came on in 2023. We also had to increase a lot with utilities. And our healthcare costs actually remained fairly reasonable this year. We weren't really happy about that. The library saw a modest increase. They've been holding the line really well on their costs, and most of their increase was wage and benefits related. The park has been sitting pretty static for a lot of years, so we thought a bump was in order. We're also going to use some of the park funds to defray the cost of the new public works employee because they're going to be taking over some of the mowing and some of the other jobs within that position. And the pool, we did give a bump because minimum wage is going up. We've got to fund that, and also our pool is aging, so we're trying to keep that going. And we all know we don't know what the future of the pool is going to be. So that's kind of where we are at with that this year. So that's kind of my synopsis. If you guys have any questions, I can either answer them or get back to you on an answer with them.
Great job, Kim. Thank you.
Do you have any comments or questions for Kim?
This will be on the agenda for final approval next meeting.
Perfect. Thanks for all your work, Kim. I will close the public hearing portion, and I will to 8A, ordinance 2022-04, regulating the possession, sale, and consumption of tobacco and edible cannabinoids and tobacco-related devices. So we just need the approval.
Yep, the approval and then authorizing the publishing in the paper. Matt put together, well, Matt did a lot of work on this whole thing, but he put together the summary. It's a 2-page summary rather than 14 pages to put in the paper.
I would approve it with that.
With the 21 change.
Yeah,
Oh, with the
change it to
amendment,
21.
yes, okay.
Change it to the 21, so I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-04.
As amended.
As amended.
I'll second.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0-0. 8B, 2023-2025 LELS Police Union Contract. Brian.
Yes, we finished up with that one a week or two ago. They have approved the new language and the increases for the next 3 years. A summary of the changes. Increases will be 4.38 for 2023, 4.38 for 2024, and 3.24 for 2025. Another change is the boot allowance to change from $200 every 2 years or every other year to $300 every other year to help cover the cost of the boots. They're getting more expensive as well, so, and they wear them out pretty quickly. And we're going to add Juneteenth as a holiday when the state of Minnesota designates it as such. And that's similar to the Public Works contract and the personnel policy for the rest of the staff. I think that was kind of the highlights, unless you guys have, unless Personnel Committee has anything else.
Good job, Personnel Committee.
Thank you. So we just look for approval of the
Well,
contract.
I got a question.
Yep.
Does that boot fund cover your boots, or is it just help? What should it be?
It helps more.
What should it be? Because I work in an industry where I have to buy a pair of boots every year and they're $250. Is there any chance we can discuss that, or is this one, or has it been discussed back and forth?
This is done, and I don't think it's out of line where we are. I think
Okay.
in other contracts, Well, it's higher than our other contract.
Right, all right, I'm fine.
It does take quite a bit more off of the employee and in that with increasing it, so.
Do I have a motion?
Please.
To approve the
Please.
union contract?
Yep.
Is that what it is? I'll make that motion. Good seeing.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
All right,
Opposed? Passes 400. Thanks, Brian and Tina, for the help, and Justin and their union. 8C, well number 3 repairs. Brian?
Yes, I think 2 meetings ago, you approved the initial cost of the well repairs at $8,600. And there was going to be more depending on what they found when they pulled everything out. So this is the more part of it. If you see the bill on there, the $8,600 is reflected on this bill. So the total is $36,960. And we are just looking for approval of that quote. And Mike was very happy with that cost. He said they do a good job, and they've always been, well, they were the only bidder this time, but in past, they were always the lowest bidder as well, so.
make a motion, we approve that.
And that goes through out of water, right, Kim?
I'll second it.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
All right,
Opposed? Passes 400. Thanks, Brian. 8D, new grapple bucket. Brian?
Yes, we've got a lot of tree cutting down coming up over the next year with all the ash trees. We have been using a grapple from one of the employees for a while. And we're trying to get away from that, borrowing equipment from employees. So the request was made to buy our own, to be ready for moving a lot of trees, out at the brush site and down at the park and hauling and all of that. So we had a couple of quotes there and requesting approval from the one from JNS Repair for $4,900. They were pretty happy with that quote.
I guess it comes out of their fund and they're managing their fund.
Yeah, I believe they had a conversation with Kim as well before we brought this forward as to where those dollars are coming from.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the grapple bucket from JNS Repair for $4,900.
second.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
All right,
Opposed? Passes 400. Thanks, Brian. 8E, 2023 rental equipment quotes. Brian?
Yep, Mike did the work of trying to get quotes on the rental equipment, and we received one from Schumacher Excavating. Prices went up a little bit from last year, well, quite a bit from last year, like most things. But we need to utilize the rental equipment, so we're recommending council approving the quote from Schumacher, the rental equipment quote for 2023. And this is a yearly thing that we always put it out for bids and
Make a motion to approve the rental quote from Schumacher.
I'll second it.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
All right,
Opposed? Passes 400. Thanks, Brian. 8F, tablets for public works. Brian?
yes, as we move into the new, what's that? Oh, well, as we move into the new finance system, we're able to utilize a electronic work order system, which will be wonderful, and then online timekeeping as well. And to do that, we need devices as well as GIS, locating, because now we've got the new GIS system, and we can see our utilities right online. So we want to outfit all of the public works trucks with a tablet so they can all see the work orders come through. They can pull up utilities when they're out on site rather than coming back in here and pulling a set of plans, rolling it open. but it's going to cost some money. But I think it'll save time as we move forward. So we've got a quote from Verizon for about $3,000 to purchase 5 tablets. They'd be the same tablets that we purchased for the GIS system just recently for locating all of this stuff. What's that?
2,300.
Is it 2,300?
Yeah.
Or 20, yeah, excuse me, 2,300, 2,299.95. And then of course there's a monthly cost with that because we want the internet service as well, so they can access all these things online. That's gonna be $200 a month. Kim and I talked about this, and it's just the cost of doing business nowadays, and it is gonna be a time saver. You know, work orders now are kind of cumbersome, and sometimes they get lost in transit, and so all in all, it's gonna be a great system. We just need the technology to keep moving with it. So requesting approval to purchase 5 tablets and the internet service.
Coming out of the sewer and water fund.
Yeah, out of the sewer water fund. Yep.
And that 200 a month will cover all 5 units with the internet?
Yep.
We did training today on, with the service orders, Brian and I did. And we can load comments, everything goes right up into our system. So as soon as it's a real-time system. So we can shoot those orders out. We can track orders, you know, sometimes if somebody, a resident calls and cancels something, we'll track it on the property so that we know. So if they say, well, I didn't cancel that, but we'll have a record. I think it's going to be a pretty seamless system once we get used to using it and fairly easy to operate. And it gives, for example, the public works staff all the information they need when we put in an order for a meter reading. It'll shoot everything with it, all the electronic information they need. They won't even have to come into the office. If they need it, they can go right out to the field and do it. Whereas now it involves usually several calls and it changes. If a closing date gets changed on a property, we'll be able to make modifications fairly quickly. So.
I thought it was just around timekeeping. It's a mobile solution, and that's something that the police department also needed from a mobile timekeeping perspective.
They can do it from they just got phones and they can do it from their phones for the timekeeping.
That was a mobile. I know you can't do it from laptops, but that's different.
They actually could do anything from their laptops. It's a mobile app that you can pull up, an internet-based app, the timekeeping and this. So everything that we're getting is an app that can be accessed remotely.
And we talked, Brian, I asked Brian if this covered the hard cases because those things are pretty sensitive. If you drop it from 3 feet, they're broken.
Yeah, no, that'll be a little bit extra that will.
Another $400 or $500 by the time you buy it.
Yeah, I can't remember what those things cost. Do you remember? Miranda usually orders those
Don't
for
try
us.
it at Verizon. It'll be-
No, we don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Miranda does the research and finds the best deal she can find for
Yeah,
us.
you can, they're about $40 a pop.
Yeah, and we might look at some point, mounting for the vehicles as well, so they're fixed there. You know, we'll want them to take it in at night, of course, rather than sitting outside and freezing, but mounting them so they're right there would be something that we would look into at some point as well. But right now, yeah, we'll get cases for them. I guess I didn't put that on the Verizon quote for sure, but we will do that.
I'll make a motion, we approve the purchase of 5 iPads or iPods or iPads. Hold on, yeah, iPads.
So you can
From
read
Verizon. With a service fee of $200.
I'll second that.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
All right,
Opposed? Passes 4-0-0. Thanks, Brian. 8G, Franson Bank Title Clarification. Matt?
So when Franson bought out Bank of Zumbrota, they did a title exam and they're asking to better define a boundary line between city property and the bank property just to.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Want me to start over? So when Franzen bought out Bank of Zumbrota, they did a title exam, and one of the issues is just to the north of the downtown bank building in the parking lot. The boundary line between the bank and the city refers to the creek. And so they felt like they'd like to better define or clarify that boundary line. So what they've done is they've proposed an exchange of deeds between the bank and the city and it's based on a survey that Vince Fangman did several years ago that describes the westerly line of the creek, which runs underneath the parking lot. So I talked to Mike and we verified that the city is responsible for maintaining that culvert for that creek. So it makes sense, I guess, to go ahead with this, in my opinion, to clarify that the boundary line is the westerly line of the creek according to the survey. So we do the exchange of deeds defining that boundary line, and then Franzen also offered to give the city an easement over the westerly 10 feet of what the bank owns in case there's a need for maintenance or repair. That's the purpose of the ingress and egress easement.
Clear?
And mud.
Yeah.
I think that if Matt, I just don't know what motion to make.
To approve the signing or execution of the deed and the easement.
Okay.
A second? Any further discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 4-0-0. Thanks, Matt, for the work on that. 8H, LMCIT coverage, waiver form. Brian.
Yep, this is the yearly offer to waive coverage, which we never do. So I just need approval to sign this as does not waive coverage.
So moved.
Any further discussion? Second on Tina. All in favor? Opposed? Passes 4-0-0. Thanks, Brian. 8I. We need to set a date for the rescheduled work session. Really, we don't have an option, I guess, because of Ellers. So hopefully it works for all of us, but it is going to be December 14th, Wednesday from 4 to 5:30.
So there were options for mailers, but we have park board meetings and other meetings that fell on those other dates. So I kind of narrowed it down to the 14th.
Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
There. Perfect. So we will schedule the work session with Ellers on December 14th, which is Wednesday from 4 to 5:30. Just need a motion for that.
So moved.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0-0. Thanks, Brian. Reports. Brian.
Yes, we received not very many applications for the streets position. We've got 2 or 3, so we're going to extend that and post it to Indeed and maybe another couple of spots, whatever we can find, just to get a bigger pool, you know. Like I say, we've got 2 or 3 applications, but we just think a bigger pool to look at is best. So we're going to extend that. I sent our engagement letter in for the lobbyist. So the lobbyist is working on our behalf as of today, on behalf of all of our communities as of today, writing bills and getting ready, gearing up to see where we can get to with the sanitary district. We'll be having a meeting with all the legislators and all the new legislators here in Zumbrota at some point relatively soon to present the sanitary district to the new members of the House and the Senate, as well as the couple of existing ones. Will help us do the explanation as well, just so we, get in front of them right away. And there's a good understanding of what it is and why it is and why we think it's the way to go. I think that's it. I can't think of anything else.
Perfect. Thanks, Brian. Matt, do you have anything?
No.
Chief.
Couple things, started working with Alexa Pohl on policy development, so got an orientation, which still don't understand everything they were talking about, but I'm sure I'll get through it. But that process has started, so I started filling out some documents that kind of give some title information and stuff like that. And I've got a meeting that'll be coming up here real soon to kind of roll things out. Ultimately, we'll have brand new policy in the end. So, and we're start fresh, start tried and true Minnesota law enforcement policies. And then with the Watch Guard, also been active with Watch Guard here on the SWAT video, body cam stuff. We've got one vehicle that got dropped off today that's been outfitted with its mobile system. They picked up another one. I suspect next week they'll come and do another switch so that by the time deployment starts, all our squads will be equipped. And they should be functional in theory because they do work. So we just don't have a way to upload it until it gets synced. So, yeah, aside from that, that's all I got.
Perfect, Chief, thanks. Yes, Brent?
I thought of a couple other things. For your awareness, we're going to bring the fee schedule to the next meeting, a revised fee schedule for your review, and then we'll set public hearing and approval on that for the first meeting in January. And I'm not sure I mentioned at the last meeting, but Nick Coverman from Semtra had contacted me about the rehab program that they offer to communities. So they're going to do an assessment of Zumbrota, and that program will offer $10,000 loans that would be forgivable over a number of years for rehabbing homes. But Nick will be here next meeting to present on that as well, just to give a heads up.
Perfect, thanks, Brian. James? Kim? Kurt? I have nothing. Sarah?
I was just gonna mention that we met, our sidewalk committee met, and we met with, what is the name of that company?
Safe Step.
Safe Step. So they go around and assess what you need to do to, they fix sidewalks instead of replacing. They try to anyway, but they will help us get some of the problem areas fixed. So we're just talking about where we want to start, and that'll be coming here to be approved by council. And yeah, it was a good meeting. Very interesting.
Yep, it's a great company. They do a lot of work in area communities, and repair is much cheaper than going in and just replacing everything. There's a lot of areas that can be repaired that are heaved, and what they do is they slice it down to get within the tolerances, the slope tolerances and the step tolerances. We can make our sidewalk dollars go a lot farther by doing repairs like this. So we're going to take a good hard look at that and bring that forward.
Perfect. Thanks, Sarah. Tina?
I have a question. Remind me, did we have the public meeting for the body cams already?
Yeah.
That
was last meeting,
totally
yeah.
forgot about it. Okay, awesome.
It was very eventful.
That's why I was like,
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I was like, perfect. I have nothing else.
Dirt?
I missed the Zumbrota Ambulance Association meeting, so Beth, did you want to say anything about it, or?
Yeah, I just have a couple of updates for you. I just have a couple of updates for you. We did meet with Glenn Heeman, who is our auditor and process. We will have a year-end audit for 12/31/22 that will be coming out early in 2023. He did an evaluation of where we stand financially. He said that we need to really look at increasing our reserve funds, which we've talked about. We'll continue to discuss that at both the executive committee meeting levels, and we'll bring it up in the February full board meeting. We have a very good process for our set-aside funds, where we're tucking money away to have future purchase for ambulance rigs and our equipment purchases. Our next ambulance purchase is scheduled for towards the end of 2025, early 2026. And we're on track with set-aside funds for that at this time. In addition to that, we had a brief conversation after Mr. Heeman left. Totally separate situation. Approximately 6 individuals from the ambulance service, the director, crew members, board members, went to a meeting in Rochester for Southeast Minnesota EMS with leadership from the EMSRB, which is the regulatory board at the Department of Transportation, state legislative representatives, media, and local EMS providers throughout Southeast Minnesota to discuss current challenges and what the future of EMS looks like. One of the things that for me personally, and I think most people in the room, that was eye-opening at the least, was that EMS is still underneath the Department of Transportation and is not seen as a healthcare entity. It's seen as a transportation service. That's astonishing to me, but it is. EMS is seen differently than our partners in law enforcement and fire. Law enforcement and fire are seen as essential services. EMS is not, because it's a transportation service.
That seems so weird.
Therefore, our funding is incredibly different because we're not seen as a medical emergency service. We're seen as a transportation load and go from 1970 kind of a service. So there was a lot of really good discussion, information that legislators can take back to St. Paul. We in this community, with the service that we have, we identified that we are incredibly blessed with the service level that we have, with the quite low level of turnover that we have. There are some departments within Southeast Minnesota that can't keep their staff in-house. They're turning over people faster than they can hire and interview and orient, and then it's time to do that process all over again. We've probably hired 3 people in the last 3 years. It's incredibly fortunate for us. And what's best about that is it's best for our communities that we serve, and it's best for those who are patients, because they get very consistent care, they get a very high level of care, and that speaks very highly of our service. So, thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Yep.
Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, man.